لا يزال الخير حيا لا يزال إن في الدنيا سلاما وظلال أخبر الأيام أنها في وصال
Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. Alright, excellent. Before we do commence with the panel discussion, could I please have everyone taking out their mobile phones? Yep, that's everyone. It seems like half of you got your mobile phones out already, distracted. Alright, could you all type into your web browser, SLI, S for Sam, L for Larry, I for Igloo, and then dot, D-O, D for dog, O for orange. I realize half the time you call up call centers, they can't actually hear the letters you're saying, mostly if they're located overseas, so just make sure we get that clarity. Alright, so is everyone logged in? Okay, excellent. Could you please type in awakening and then hit enter? So this will be the platform we're going to be using to send any questions through that you want the panelists to answer, and also we'll provide an opportunity for you all to raise your hand and also share any questions that you may have throughout this session. But inshallah, this should be a good way for those who don't want to raise their hand just to be able to submit questions. Another part of this software as well is that if there's a specific question that you like, that you want to be asked, that has been written there, you can hit the thumbs up function and that will push it up to the top. Sounds good? Anyone having trouble with that? Technically challenged, anyone? Okay, alright, inshallah, let's get started. Alright, so as our MCs have presented this topic, the question is entering the matrix. Can our careers be Islamic? Now what that means for many of us, it varies across the board. And I'd like to hear from our panelists in regards to what does it actually mean for our career to be Islamic? So Tanviruddin, if you don't mind if I start that question on your side to kick this off.
Thank you. Is it working? Yeah, okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you Ramzy and thanks to the organisers for this opportunity. This is a question that I've thought a lot about, and a lot of people I look up to, my mentors, have spent a lot of time in. One of the mentors I've grown up learning of, Mohammed Zaud, who's now working at Al Jazeera, he said to me, grappling with my purpose and what I'm doing, I'm spending my time, is one of the most difficult things I've ever done. He used to spend long drives down to the south coast just to clear his mind. So the first thing I want to say is that this is something, it is challenging, and it's something you think about and reflect on throughout your life. It's not that, oh, I've got into the career and it's all done. I wanted to start by reflecting on, there's a saying of the Prophet ﷺ in Tabarani which says, the best among you is the best of most benefit to mankind. And I want to kind of position that thought along with the second, so in the question we've got what is the career and what is Islam. Those are two words that we need to think about in answering this. And the second thing is the teaching from Rasulullah when Jibreel came to me and said, what is Islam? He said it's three things. It's Iman, it's Islam, and it's Ihsan. So the first thing I want to say in sort of my opening remarks is we need to think of career very holistically, right? It is how we earn money, how we spend money, what we do with our time. So that holistic view. And then with regards to religion, it's not just, is this job halal or haram? Is it, can I pray or not can I pray? Am I giving, there's so much more to it. And that requires us to spend a lot of time to understand. And the last thing I'll say is, and in the spirit of social media, every one of you should spend a bit of time. It's a 2-minute video from BBC, which is about, and it says the question, is this London's friendliest bus driver? And I want you to watch that video, because that video of this person, Ahmed Hassahani, who is just an absolutely lovable guy, and basically as a bus driver, he is having impact every day in his life. He's bringing joy to his customers, he's sharing his Islamic values of courtesy and kindness, and he's doing that through his role. And I think, when I think about our work and what we do, thinking back to what we are doing with our job is almost as important as the actual specifics of whether that role is halal or haram or not. And I want to kind of emphasize that, and that's my sort of main message here in this time.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tanvir. So on that point and following that things that Tanvir has mentioned, we understand the purpose of our existence is to worship Allah. Allah has created us in order to worship Him. Abu Hakim, you've studied fiqh, you're currently doing your masters at the moment with Medina Online, if I'm not mistaken. How do we look at this in the fiqh sense, right? If our intention, if our entire purpose is to worship Allah, and here we are spending 9 to 5 at work, doing the grind, etc. Following on from that point, how does this look? How should we perceive this as a Muslim?
First of all, I want to take a step back and define Islamic career. And I think when you define that, all of us will have a better understanding of what Islamic career means. So when you take the word Islam, what does Islam mean? It's Islam It means to submit, to obey, to be subservient to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His legislation. A career means, if you look in the Oxford Dictionary or usual dictionary, it means a job that you have, and it's very important that you clarify these meanings first and then we have the basis to have the discussion. It means that the job that you have throughout your lifetime, you could have a progression, it could not. So it's a series of jobs that you have in life. You combine those two things together, Islamic career, it means a series of jobs and occupations that you have throughout your lifetime that submits, that obeys, that is subservient to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Sharia. And Sharia is another extensive term, but I'll let Ramzy to see whether we want to explore that. So from an Islamic career perspective, that's what it means. So when you understand that, you have a better idea of where you want to start working.
So on that point, then there is always a contention of Islamic understanding. In some places around the world, such as Saudi Arabia, where it's the segregation of genders is from restaurants all the way to universities, and then we adopt that same perspective here. And going into the workplace, the reality is we have to intermix with opposite gender. How do you then marry those two? Is it something cultural, specifically fit context in specific parts of the world? Is it relevant here? How do we work through those issues? And there's many examples of that.
To be honest, when I was in Saudi Arabia, my wife went to a restaurant and they wouldn't even serve her because she was a woman and there was any men, so it might have changed at that time, but to be honest, but in Australia, you go to any other vegetarian restaurant, there's no problem there. A man will serve a man, a woman will serve a woman. So, in one perspective, it's very important to have those Islamic principles first of all, and I think that's a very deep discussion of we need to understand our Islam, what Allah requires from us, and then it can be applied across the different cultures. And some of these people, for example, in Saudi Arabia, it's the segregation is quite pronounced. But in Morocco, which I've been to, and Yemen and other Islamic countries, the segregation is not as pronounced, but yet the societies run and they mix in a halal way according to Islamic principles. So the importance is realizing that, look, you don't take one country and say, this is Islam, but rather, we're living in Australia now, we're living in Sydney. Understanding the fundamentals of our Islam, we can then use these guiding principles to then interact and deal and, but the question is very extensive. Hopefully we'll expand more as the panel continues.
All right, so I guess on that point now, we speak with as many examples in our community who refuse to go into the corporate workspace, who refuse to go into the spaces outside of our community. And a lot of it is by choice, and a lot of it is the fact that we want to feel in a familiar environment. Rahaf, moving on to you, you have done your Masters, your MBA, marketing, and you've worked extensively working in the community. Now tell us a little bit about that and why you selected that path.
Assalamu alaikum. I guess I did work for different organizations, companies, and non-Muslims. And I wouldn't say that working for a non-Muslim company implies that you are working in a non-Islamic environment or your job is not Islamic. That's completely misconception, because you can still have your requirements. Let's say it's halal, it's your prayer room, it's your personal space, in a in a non-Islamic environment, and you will be treated with respect, and all of your requests will be, I guess, answered. But it's a choice, and for me, one of the main things where whatever environment I'm going to be in, I have to be given my haqq, my right. Whether it's my flexibility, my payment, how much I want to get paid, how far I want to travel for work, and that's one of the things that allowed me to work in the Muslim community, is I ask those tough questions. Give me a pay rise. Give me, this is how much I want to get paid. This is how much I want to...
Has that been a challenge?
Of course. And that's why you have to shop around for, I guess, the right job for you, or the job that will satisfy your needs. And they're halal needs. Like, you're not, like, as Muslim, we're not supposed to be poor. That's just not. Like, we're supposed to be strong, we're supposed to be powerful, we're supposed to be able to help others. And if you're not financially stable, or if you're not in a position to give, then our ummah is going to be in, I guess, declining, where others, people are owning houses, people are investing, people are doing things for the future generations, and we're not, because apparently it's humble, and it's too, you can't ask a charity, or you can't ask an Islamic organization for a pay rise. And that's, I'm sorry, but that's completely unfair, Islamically. So that's one thing is, once I had the courage, I guess, to ask for what I thought I deserved, and I have been given that. Yeah.
What's really interesting about that point, a lot of us who have been, I guess, fostered in the community, fostered in these quote-unquote, I say, Islamic communities, is the fact is you have to be humble. You get your due right. You shouldn't ask. It's admired to have humility and so forth. So it'll be interesting to touch on that point. But before I do touch on that point, I wanted to just go quickly back to Tanvir. Tanvir, you've travelled across the world for work. Now, Rahaf mentioned something really interesting, was the fact that because you work for a non-Muslim doesn't necessarily mean it's a non-Islamic environment. What has been your experience, working in different places around the world?
I think I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I'll probably say a lot of controversial things. I've worked in Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, and Australia, and have had exposure to organizations here and abroad. My most heartbreaking moment was I was volunteering. So I worked at the Islamic Development Bank as an Islamic Finance Fellow program, and I spent Hajj of 2017 volunteering at Mina. And 1 million animals were slaughtered in the space of 3.5 days for the Hajj, right? And we were in the statistics and data team. It was 4 animals per second. And I was thinking, how is that humanly possible at the industrial scale? And I went to the slaughterhouses, I saw what was happening. They were dragging animals, and some of them were being slaughtered, they were standing up. It was an absolute crazy, and I was so struck. I was thinking, this is the Hajj, the Islamic Development Bank, going to be the pinnacle of Islam in the world. Saudi Arabia, Ministry of Religious Affairs is backing this. How has this happened? I took all this footage and I was so angry. Now, the thing is, the reality is, and I think Rahaf mentioned it is not like, this is something I feel strongly about, it's not about the Islamic label, it's not about the Islamic country, Islamic manager, having a beard, having hijab. Islam is the principles, as Abu mentioned. It is what you carry with it. You could be working in an Islamic organization, as I experienced, and there's so much, I guess, unimaginable injustice. And if you're working for a Muslim, so my CEO, when I joined, she said to me on the first day, we are a social enterprise and we're trying to take affordable energy products to Australian households. And she's developed a financial technology company to develop that. That's what sold me into working in that company. So I think really it's about doing the due diligence and shopping around, as Rahaf mentioned, and holding on to the Islamic principles. And that requires us to have courage. You might need to turn out a more lucrative job. You might need to challenge your bosses, and whether they're Muslim or otherwise. So there's a lot into it, and that's why it's difficult, as I mentioned, but it requires that constantly keeping that forefront.
Excellent, thank you. By the way, panelists, feel free to weigh in at any point. Let's see how we go. All right, now let's go to the Slido and actually see some questions from the audience. So, 57 votes, and for the list, and I probably guess, oh no, there's actually quite equal balance here. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, this is what. Yeah, so here we go. This is really going to be good. All right, 57 votes. Muslim girls are often criticized for being career ambitious. How do they reconcile the often highly negative double standards enforced on them by the community? So Mona, we talked about this as the briefing before coming on board, that I was going to target questions to you around stereogender types in regards to your field. Yeah, so you know what? Open for share us your experiences and how you think.
Thank you.
Yeah, double standards. Go ahead.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Amazing work to the MSA students who have organised this. I'd just like to acknowledge that. The last time I was involved with a Muslim Society event was about a decade ago, when I was heavily involved with Muslim Society myself. And it's, speaking of gender stereotypes, I see today, as I saw 10 years ago, females always outnumber the males. And a lot of the people organising this is primarily headed by females doing the hard work, which we don't see, which goes back into my point. As Muslim women, we are visible. We are outwardly visible. We cannot remain anonymous, whether we don't have a choice to be anonymous. Our Islam is our identity. I'm constantly questioned by males, how can be an outspoken Muslim lawyer who's advocating all across Sydney, ranging from the Supreme Court down to the District Court and the local court, dealing with males, whether it be in the jail cells, whether it be at police stations, whatever it is, and how can you do that as a woman in hijab? And I deal with this constantly, but I think we have to also, and which we haven't really touched on in today's topic, it's can my career be Islamic? But the question is, can we really separate our career and Islam? Islam to me is a way of life. We can't compartmentalize it into spirituality, our personal ibadah at home, our work life, our friends or whatever. Our entire life, in my opinion, is as Muslims, as practicing Muslims, Islam is our life. We can't compartmentalize it. So I wake up in the morning every day and I deal with some very difficult work in my line of work. I'm dealing with people accused of terrorism. I'm dealing with women who are in our community who are suffering from the most intense domestic violence, who are dealing with mashaykh who aren't addressing their issues. I'm dealing with an array of issues, and it's not easy. It's a struggle. It's a daily struggle. And then to have to deal with issues of Islamophobia, dealing with judges who see me overtly as a hijabi, who firstly see me as hijabi before I even speak, and to deal with the multiple topics of multiple issues, so Islamophobia, and then to deal with issues from within our community, it's hard. But I think what we always have to remind ourselves as Muslims, and a lot of you in the audience are students, is we have to wake up with an intention. We all need to have a solid intention every morning, and our purpose for whatever we do, we have to realign that with our faith. We have to realign our purpose with what we do every day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says everything we do is with intention. So if we have the right intention, we will get rewarded for that, whether it be our work or whether it be our voluntary work or whatever it may be. It all comes down to intention. And I run my own law firm, and I've had girls in hijab cry in interviews as I'm interviewing them for jobs, who say to me, seeing a woman like you who is in a leadership type role, we never would have thought we'd deal with that in our lives. We thought that we'll be dealing with racist and misogynist employers who second guess us or who will not want to deal with us because of our overt Islamicness. And I think we have to hold on to our deen, because if we hold on to our deen, we'll have that conviction, that strong conviction that we need to excel every single day into whatever job path we do. With that conviction, we'll be helping communities, helping our society, whether it be within our own Islamic community and beyond that.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that, Mona. So just in saying that, what has been the hardest challenge that you need to overcome in regards to these experiences as a female lawyer within that industry?
I think I'm dealing with two challenges. So the first challenge that I'm dealing with is the internal community challenge. Why isn't she at home, for example, with her children and cooking and cleaning and being domesticated? Why is she working in publicly? We're dealing with, for example, males or working, in a what I've been called as a kufr system. And there's a lot of that. So dealing with internally within our community, and they're dealing with, as we are all living in Sydney and we're all working in a kufr system, and the system itself has strong undertones of Islamophobia and racism, whether we like it or not. Muslims are in Australia are the second most discriminated against out of all cultures. So whether we like it or not, we are working within this system. We are in this system, and we have to work. I guess my strong, if you can take anything from what I say today, is hold on, especially to the females. And I see so many hijabis, mashallah, in this audience who are overtly Muslim. Take pride in your hijab. Take pride in your Islam, because you will deal with challenges. You will deal with racists. You will deal with so many issues in your career, but if you wake up with that intention that you're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you're doing it for the sake of the betterment of our society, no matter what challenges you may face dealing with misogynists or racists or whatever you may deal with in your day-to-day work, you will go home with that purpose.
Excellent. Thank you. So I want to slide across to our brother Abu Hakim, who's a revert, and just following this point of stereotypes, being discriminated against. Your formal name, if that's okay, if I refer to it as Joe Tang, Chinese, knowing that Asians also are one of the top who are discriminated against as well. I want to hear about your experience. You've worked at the likes of Apple, eBay, Telstra as well. Was it Telstra? Yeah, Telstra as well. And then you moved to the Islamic finance space. What has been your experience early in your career while you're making those moves throughout corporate space?
I think as a Joe Tang in the workplace, I don't think I have a lot of issues. Okay? I don't think there was a lot of challenges there, because I think workplace and culture and industry is becoming quite diverse now, where seeing a Chinese in the workplace is quite common. The challenges is more from an Islamic perspective, where when you actually apply for a job, and I think this goes on to the point about maintaining the Islamic identity while you're in the workplace, you really need to be upfront about that. I feel that numerous times, and probably many of us have felt numerous times, they're turned down for a job because you're Muslim. And how do they know I'm Muslim? Because I'm asking for time to pray, I'm asking what I need Jum'ah time, I'm telling them first that I don't shake hands with another woman. In that, saying that in an interview can be quite confronting for your typical interviewer. And advice for everyone is that you want to be generally upfront with these things, because if you're upfront with your Islam, with your Islamic identity for any job that you apply for, either they accept that or they reject that. That's it. And if they accept that, then alhamdulillah, you know that they will be inshallah supportive of what you do, your Jumu'ah prayers, etc. And if they reject that, then alhamdulillah, you don't waste your time. And the challenge in that is that the challenge is that if you then go into a workplace, and you feel that challenge yourself, if you get into a workplace and you don't be upfront with your Islam upfront, I'm a Muslim upfront, then that would lead to difficulties further on. It's like a slippery slope. When you start off, then you need to start. And I said this, subhanAllah, so many times where I've been in the corporate, brothers need to start sneaking to prayers. There's videos about brothers being so embarrassed about praying. That all happens because that they're not upfront about.
Comment in relation to that. Why do we have to tell our employers we are Muslim from the outset, or show them that we are Muslim and they need to do X, Y, Z? Why is that the expectation when a Jew who goes to work doesn't have that expectation? When a Christian who goes to work doesn't have that expectation? there are laws which protect that in this country. And I think that's the issue we have as Muslims who are disadvantaged in this country. We're always seeing things through the prism of a minority.
But it's
I think it's more from to me, I see it as an education thing. You know, for example, I'll go to a workplace. You want to come for Friday drinks? No, I don't want to go for Friday drinks. I don't drink. But Muhammad did that.
Yeah.
Well, Muhammad, so it's an education. I see it more as I don't see it as a disadvantage, but I'm seeing there is here's my son, here's who I am, and here's who we are. You know, that's part of the interview process. That's what I'm going to do. I'm being upfront about it. And if you don't take me, then you know that Muslims do that. And inshallah, by doing that, by demanding these Islamic things, which they didn't know, you need to pray, I didn't know that. Oh, do you need to pray Jummah? I didn't know that. Oh, you don't shake hands. No, I didn't know that. So then it makes it easier for the next generation. So that when we put them on our shoulders, we put you all on our shoulders, it'll be easier for you.
Sorry, so do you really need to mention that at an interview though? You need 5 minutes to read the Quran and like another 5 minutes for Asr, and everyone gets an hour break and you get what, 15 minutes to eat? Well, you're fairly, like, you're not a burden on any company. In fact, if anything, you are giving them a lot more effort, and if you're following, I guess, your Islamic teaching, you're working with ihsan, you're working with itqan, you're giving them the excellence at the workplace. But if you point that as if it's a burden for them and you're asking for X, Y, and Z, do you feel as though you're going to be prejudged?
Mm-hmm.
So is it a question in the interview process, or is it something that you communicate later on?
To be honest, from what I've seen, from my experience in the corporate world, working in the city for 10 years and seeing what affects brothers, I find that it's a personal advice that it's good to be upfront with Islam. And like, you could feel it's a burden if you want to mention. I mean, it's a burden to employ, but I actually find, and the most amazing thing is some of my most amazing staunchest supporters in the corporate world have been women. They respect that. When they see that, they respect that. When they see the love that you have for your religion and you're willing to show that, they respect that. Now, I mean, you can take the other point where you cannot mention it, but then I've seen that slippery slope before from personal experience, and it hasn't worked out too well for the people that have taken that path. But I mean, it's
sorry. Just so we're clear, I am not saying you shouldn't be like نحن قوم أعزنا الله بالإسلام. So you have to be proud of your values and so on. And you should be clear, but at the same time, do you really need to mention that at the interview process? When I worked for non-Islamic corporations, I did have my breaks, I did have my halal meals delivered, in fact, I was more respected than the Muhammad and Umar and Ali that did not practice, you know. I was valued, okay, when it came to the catering, Rahaf, let's ask Rahaf because she is practicing. You know, let's not get Rahaf to be involved in that party or that whatever because there's alcohol or whatever. So I do believe the B's, you do have to be clear about it, but do you really have to mention that at the interview process? I don't know.
It goes through so much headache just going through that process. Whereas they mentioned that up front, it's a supportive environment.
Sure.
But yeah.
Go ahead.
Very interesting discussion. And you know, I think we do need to be upfront, but we need to be cognizant of and understand other people's sensibilities. My first job, full-time job as a student at a uni, my manager was a person of the Baha'i faith, and he saw that I was Muslim, and one of the things he challenged me on, and we had feedback sessions, and even in the final session at the end of the project, he said to me, Tanvi, are you bringing your full faith to your work? Because he was the person who really brought his faith to his work, and everyone knew that. He had his religious duties, but he also brought that humanity to his work. Everyone knew that he was someone who had high integrity, he was kind and compassionate, and he treated everyone respectfully. And that's something that struck with me, because I have seen in other workplaces where, as Muslims, we demand things, we want our right to do this, and we should. That's not to say we can't. And as Moaz mentioned, there are rules and regulations that protect people's worker rights. Alhamdulillah, we are beneficiaries of that, and we're in a country that respects that. There are Muslims who are struggling in many other marketplaces that they can't. But what I want to stress is that you cannot just say, I want my rights on one side and forget also your duties and responsibilities. And as Muslims, we are respectful. If we have work due, you need to finish it. If we need to ask for something, you need to ask it respectfully. And when you are upfront and you back it up with good adab on the back end, you will find people will be welcoming, and more often than not, I've never had an issue. When just there's no need. You're very the dramatic effect. When I was at McKinsey, we used to consult with some of the largest organizations. I had a chat with the HR and I said, I would like not to work in alcoholic beverage industries, financial services, and ones that are having adverse environmental impacts. And they respected that, because I was upfront about it. But I did not do it at the interview. It would have been a bit confronting. I did it once I got a sense and a feel of what was the right time and the right moment to have those conversations. So, we need to exercise wisdom. Our religion has wisdom. But I really would like to stress, and I have seen brothers being very gregarious about, I need this, I need that, and thinking, you do need that, but also understand what you also have to give. And people will observe you. But also the last thing I wanted to add is, sometimes offer the solution as well. We used to have a monthly cake sort of event at our work where all the people in that month, their birthdays were celebrated. And the cake that they were bringing was not halal. And so I went online and I found 3 different companies, including Luna's, which was eventually selected. And they changed their procurement to get halal cakes. So I don't need to worry about halal cakes anymore at the workplace. And that's been implemented. So be a personal solution, not just always problems.
Can I say one thing? I think that's a very important point. The use of wisdom. The use of wisdom, we need to also understand that the wisdom that we use needs to be in consultation with the Islamic wisdom. So you don't go to work and you go, such and such situation is happening at work, I need to make my own decision. And you can, but for the better decision, if you want to make that more robust, is to consult the Islamic opinion and look at how that applies. And every one of the panelists here and all the panelists previously and in the next few sessions, they'll be open to help you. They'll be open for you for you to ask them. So I don't think you need to make any of these decisions yourself, or you need to go on and you're out there in the corporate world or you're working in a career by yourself. But you have this communal support and the people that help you in making those decisions and guide you on those from our experiences as well when you make those decisions. So yeah.
Sorry, just on that, there are organizations such as Hire Me and brothers and sisters out there that will always be willing to, actually, especially on Facebook, Hire Me, they'll be willing to look at your resume, look at even your outfit, how you look, do you look presentable. Looking Muslim doesn't mean you look humble and you wear your abaya. You can still look presentable and dress nicely, it's okay. And so reach out to people before you go for an interview or before you apply for a job, get your resume checked. Be a catch. Basically, be someone that people want to have in their organization. You can't just expect, excuse me, people to offer you jobs, offer you solutions, offer you, facilities, and you are not doing any effort to be someone of value. So, yeah.
I think just touching on that point, and I know I'm a moderator here, I shouldn't be throwing my opinion at all, be very unbiased. But speaking about different cultures, many of us come from migrant cultures of Asian cultures, Middle Eastern cultures, and so forth. We also have to understand what is a Western culture we're actually working in as well. I've worked across both the Philippines and Australia, and the expectation of power distance between your employer and yourself and asking for things. Generally in the mosque, like, we don't disrespect the sheikh, we don't disrespect our parents, and if we ask or over-ask too many things, we're seen as disrespectful. We're in the workplace when you're not, what's that word, upfront, as Abu Hakim has mentioned, if you're not direct, they're not going to be able to read your mind in regards to what you want. So there is that cultural aspect, and to be aware of that as well as you start to navigate through the workplace. All right. Just in regards to Hire Me, was that Brother Ahmed's? Right, he's somewhere here. Where are you? Hands up. Where you at? There's a plug, man. You owe us about $1,000. All right. So moving on to the next topic. So continuing on with gender stereotypes. Top question is: are house husbands okay? What do you mean by okay? Are they all right? All right, Abu Hakim. Are house husbands okay? All right. It's not Islamic, non-Islamic. Is it Okay. But, you know, I'm going to throw it your way. So just to give a bit of context from the gender stereotype conversation, we spoke about women in the workplace and, you know, the stereotype of them having to be at home raising the kids. Abu Hakim, you're on the flip end. Let's hear about that. So give us a little bit of background around that and your thoughts.
Great question. Look, to give a bit of background, I have taken time off my career to be a full-time house husband, part-time house husband, while my wife has worked part-time to continue her training. So now she's a specialist obstetrician, a doctor that kind of pull babies out. So I've supported her through that. Not everyone understands that word. So there's doctors that help if there's a problem to assist the women to pull the babies out. And I know a lot about it. I hear it every day, you know. So I hear about it's very interesting discussion. I'm in the finance field. She's in obstetrics, and we have these. It's very interesting field. But look, you know, in 2011, a long time ago, we had our first child. You know. Before that, it was all about decisions we made, I made, it didn't matter. And then, subhanAllah, this is the next stage of life now, and it often catches people off guard. You know, the child comes and you all of a sudden realise, I can't make decisions all about myself anymore. I have a kid. So there was a choice that we made, whether she quit her work, gave it all up, and look after the child, which she was willing to do, and we both had that discussion. She was happy to do that. She didn't care. But it's a 6-year training program. She completed 2 years and got past some seriously difficult exams. Or me working at Apple at that time, you know, having numerous opportunities, getting paid really well, to quit my job. But for us, it was quite a straightforward decision because we felt that was a bit of a waste if she quit her job. So I went through and I quit, and I spent a long time out in Dubbo, in the countryside, full-time looking after our son. And subhanAllah, yani, it was one of the most amazing experiences. And you realise that one of the things that's forgotten in these career discussions is that looking after, raising amazing children is a career. It's something that should occupy our time. It's often forgotten these careers. And I can assure you, if that's all I did, I wouldn't be up here right now. So, alhamdulillah, I'm a happy stay-at-home dad. They don't care who that is.
On that point, a lot of people think career is just a full-time job that's paid. And there are so many women who have opted to stay at home, care for their children, and sometimes they feel like that they're put down because they're not necessarily out there and working. But I think we need to also put a heavy emphasis on the roles that the mother plays in the household as well. So we're all talking about the importance of pursuing our career and all of that sort of stuff. But sometimes I feel like a lot of these women who are at home, who are raising children, my sister is here today in the audience, and she hasn't worked in a while, and she's raising 3 beautiful children. And I think her job is if not more intense than the work that I do sometimes. And I think we need to also honour women who stay at home, who take care of the children. And I think that role, we can't undermine the role of a mother who decides not to pursue full-time work, because work in the home is in and of itself work. And I think we all should honour mums who decide to stay at home. But on the flip side of that, women who have decided to work whilst raising their children and pursue careers, we shouldn't also ostracize them and make them feel guilty. I don't have any children myself, I'm not married, but I'm often told by a lot of women in our community who are married and who are juggling full-time work or work simultaneously, that they often feel this sense of guilt, and perhaps you can emphasize that more.
I have a 4-month-old baby, so alhamdulillah, I'm privileged to be able to have flexibility in my work. I'm privileged to be working in the Muslim community. And I mean, 5 years ago when I decided to do what I'm doing now, the plan was if I'm going to have children, I want to be able to be there for my baby, work from home, have flexibility, have people that can do the work. So it's a ni'mah that you can have the time to spend with your children, raise them, educate them, and it's actually, sorry, it's not only a ni'mah, it's an obligation. So unless you can't, you have to. And it's a form of ibadah. So, I mean, whether it's the mom or the dad that chooses to be home looking after the children, it is something that someone has to do.
Kabir.
No, please.
A very important point. House husband, housewife, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, I think He's saying my
I'm making mine closer.
Is it closer or is it further or what am I doing wrong? Hold it? Yeah, okay. Look, at the end of the day, Islam is very broad. Okay? The issue is not working or not working. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Islam has certain rights. When it comes down to it, answering to Allah on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has certain rights and responsibilities on the husband and wife. Right? And there's certain questions that we ask the husband, certain questions we ask the wife. So when it comes to Islam has set the principles, but look, there are times you can be flexible. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't say it's haram for the male not to work, or it's haram for the female to work. But there are general principles which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set down, which on the Day of Judgment He's going to ask husband, have you fulfilled your responsibilities? He's going to ask the wife, have you fulfilled your responsibilities? And so forth. So Islam sets the foundations again for that, and we should explore that. But at the same time, there is flexibility to cater for different times and circumstances, such as
Absolutely sensitive point. If you look at the modern economy and education systems and workplaces, a lot of this was invented in the 1700s and 1800s in England with factory workers, where the person would go into work from a certain time, the wife would stay at home and take care of kids, children will be sent to school to memorize all this stuff and then come out and enter that workforce. It was a it's a very outdated mode of operation. It's not how the modern economy occurs. The gig economy is huge now. Most people and a lot of people are working Uber, Deliveroo, and some people are now working part-time remote work. So the thing I want to say is, can we get rid of all these labels of, even like concepts of house husband, housewife, and all of those, these labels and things that we attribute don't make sense. And I think I really appreciate Abuti's point about coming back to the principles. So the reality is, so Harvard conducted one of the longest longitudinal studies from pre-World War II to today, and they asked people at a late age, what is it that they valued the most? And the number one thing was relationships. The thing that gave them the biggest impact on their welfare and well-being was the relationships that they had. They did not say, I worked more, I made more money. Now, this is a reality and truth we know. And if we value relationships, we will make our work serve that purpose. Just as we want work to service our ability to be a Muslim and to fulfill Allah's obligations and to prepare for the hereafter, we want work to be grounded around that. So speak to your employers about working remotely, working part-time, taking time off. I had a brother, another guy really inspired by every 3.5 years, he would quit his job and take 9 months off. He'd go traveling, he'd do fishing with villagers in Guatemala, he'd volunteer in the slums of Mumbai. He would do all sorts of different things to refresh himself. I know friends who were working at the Reserve Bank of Australia, university medalists, went to Jordan and studied there to be an Islamic and Arabic teacher. So the concept, and I think as migrants we struggle with this, because our parents are like, Beta, we brought you here to study and to make money to become a doctor. Alhamdulillah, we live in the most blessed country in the world. 28 years of constant economic growth. No one is going to be impoverished. And if you are going to be impoverished, there are lots of services to help people, including Medicare and other government welfares. It's not to say people aren't struggling, and I don't want to flesh over that. But it means that we've got to relax. Like, rizq is set. So focus on relationships, focus on work that's meaningful, and put that at the forefront. You will find that things will come into place. I'll just end with the last story. My first job was working at Muslim Aid Australia, and I was in my 4th year of uni. I still hadn't graduated at 6 years of my total program. My supervisor at university was thinking, Tandy, you're in the middle of your honours degree, you're about to submit your thesis. You really want to go part-time and work at a charity? I said, I really feel passionate about it. I'd volunteered when I was in high school. And I did that for 10 months or 11 months. My parents were a bit iffy about it, and a lot of my friends were like, you're working at a charity? You're like, this guy who's doing a great law degree and you want to work at a charity, earning absolute peanuts. But I needed to do that because I needed to gain that understanding, and it was a great experience, and I went on to other things. But so, and I find too many people are stuck up in this idea of everything's got to be linear and progress. So think broadly, invest in trying things, and above all, remember your principles, as we've been talking about.
Just to add to that, that was, I guess, my pathway as well. I did work for charities, and I always say, a lot of the barakah I see in my work is because of those 2-3 years I gave to charities. Yes, it was peanuts. Yes, it wasn't the best pay, and it was a lot of hours. And I didn't do as well at uni because of my work. But I'm very appreciative of the experience. It taught me so much, and it humbled me. And I would say that, alhamdulillah, that we have a community that is so generous, and so many organizations that you can go, give up some of your time, learn, get deep into it and see and see it for yourself, because the corporate world is not going to teach you what the community does. And yeah.
So on that point, just following what Rahaf mentioned, could I just get a raise of hands of university students in the room? So if you're about in your 40s and you want to pretend like you're back in university, you can raise your hand as well. All right, so with those with their hands up, place down your hand if you don't have any professional work experience. Okay, so the ones who have their hands up, just confirming you have had professional work experience. All right, so it's interesting the amount of university students in here, but the ones who actually have some level of professional work experience. And I think just going back to Rahaf's point of the fact of, okay, actually, could I get everyone, university students, back hands up? Who's done non-profit or charity or work overall? So I think on the point of Tanvir and Rahaf, and I know Abu Hakim, you also one of the founders of Al-Khalfat Institute, spent a lot of time in the field of da'wah. And Mona, did you have experience in non-charity?
Yeah, I do a lot of work which I don't like to publicly.
Yeah, excellent.
Say that. There's, within my personal work, I do with a lot of people within our community, Muslims who are extremely vulnerable, whether that be through the system that we're in, or whether that be through institutions or institutionalized racism and xenophobia, wherever that may be. And I'm dealing with the most vulnerable people within our community. And for me, I do a lot of pro bono type work as well. And that for me is to give back to the community in whatever way I possibly can. And I think that's what we have to understand when we're deciding on a career, or whether we're concerned about whether we are going to get a job or whether we're not going to get a job. I think if we have our intentions we make the right intentions, we have to always remember that Allah promises us that the rizq comes from Him. And we just have to tie our camel, work hard, do the hard yards, and subhanAllah, Allah will provide us with ways we would never have imagined. A lot of my colleagues say, how can you do all this community work? How can you get by with pro bono, almost pro bono type community work? But I find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me in ways I never imagined, because if you give to the community and you have the right intentions and you have to believe with firmness that, and a solid conviction that your rizq comes from Allah. And at the end of the day, no matter what you do or how hard you try, you have to leave it in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands, and that rizq comes from Him.
Yeah, so I think on that point of working in non-profit, working in charity, just confirming that, would you all agree that that in itself has served as a betterment in your experience as you step into your careers?
I think it's always helpful for that. I think, getting that, if you are going to do any volunteer work during your uni or during your spare time, it should be within the community. But at the same time, I think one of the things that's missing, and maybe all the panelists experience, is the talent in the Muslim community is still developing. So it's great to see Muslims going out there, receiving experiences from some of the top companies, and then having 10 or 15 years experience in that, and then coming back to serve the community as well. So from both perspectives, at the beginning of your career and during the peak times of your career, to really think about how you can serve the community and how to really bring a lot of these great skill sets that you will be learning, inshallah, back to the community.
one of the problems we have is the Muslim community cannot afford people with 15 years experience in the corporate world. And that's
Not
one...
fair to you, Abu Haki, by the way.
I'm a cheap
And that's one thing that it's an issue that we have to talk about. Like, if I want to give my skills, my experience to the Muslim community, what's the Muslim community giving me in return? And
isn't that contradictory though to your point?
Yeah.
Of asking for your right. But at the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
time,
of course. But that's, alhamdulillah, again, I had the courage, I asked, I was put in a position where I could get what I wanted. But then at the same time, if I didn't, I would probably be working for a non-Islamic organization. And that's, yes, it works for me, but would it work for everyone else? I don't think so.
thank you for that. So there's a question around female medical workers treating male patients and other questions that are at the top of the list. I'm not going to go through those, but our panelists will have availability after this session if you guys want to ask any questions following that. But the next question that I want to move on, as a Muslim, how can you network in a halal way to help increase job opportunities and connections for your field? First hand, yes. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a strong believer in networking. My friends say I'm the networker. I just attend all sorts of events. I did, at university times, I found that, there was quite a lot of, the natural instinct was to stick around with your own friends, and especially in the Muslim community and friends I knew from high school, and also being of Bangladeshi heritage, a lot of the Bangladeshi people I knew. And I found that was a little bit, it stymies opportunities. You do need to go out and meet people and attend other events with other groups, be comfortable with that, both professionally and also for extracurricular activities. The thing, how to navigate that process, the first thing would be to get good mentors. And I think, especially for people who are feeling a little bit more shy about, obviously, the minority status, or especially for sisters, finding the right mentors who can open doors. And now the community has moved a lot further than when I was studying my first year in 2007. There's networks among the medical community, but the legal field, the Muslim legal network. And so to reach out to, I guess, the senior students and the people who are practicing, just go up and ask them, it's like, which networks are you part of? Where do I meet certain people? And don't be shy about it. But I think absolutely networking is crucial. You've got to be proactive about it. And I think the thing I found over time, it's a bit of a generalization, but the university students that I saw who just hung around with Muslims day in, day out in their own little bubbles, they tended to access less opportunities and to access less, I guess, beneficial career paths. It's a bit of a generalization, but that was my observation. But those who kind of did venture out, meet other people, they often got access to a lot more. So it's a bit of a balance.
I agree with most of what you said, but the reality is, in the corporate world, living in Australia, in Sydney, we're dealing with a lot of issues or a lot of things which may contradict our Islam. For example, myself as a lawyer, I can't understand how many law parties I've been invited to where there's a heavy drinking culture, and it's got a lot of networking opportunities, or networking with barristers who are white old men, who want to have drinks Friday night, drinks after work. And the reality is, there are many opportunities for networking, and there's no doubt about that. But I think being a Muslim audience, predominantly student-type audience, we have to also hone in on the reality of what it's like to network in a system which has inherently a lot of things which contradict our religion. So yes, networking is a great thing, but we can't deny the fact that ultimately it comes with a lot of struggle. I myself, personally, have avoided a lot of work because I just refuse to network with old white men or barristers who want to drink with me. I refuse to do that. That's not my thing. I could have got a lot of work from that if I pursued that path. But I guess it's an internal question we all have to ask ourselves. How much do we want to compromise? Because there is going to be a compromise. It's not all airy-fairy. Yeah, networking is great, speaking with our colleagues. The reality is we do come from a heavy Australian sort of culture. There's a culture of drinking and networking and socialising with the opposite gender, which is quite freaking. And I think how do we reconcile that with our faith is a pertinent question that we have to address. And I think it comes with a lot of personal dilemmas and a lot of personal struggles. I myself was offered, for example, when I was first starting out my career, amazing job at one of the best law firms in the country. And he told me, the employers were telling me, would your hijab would potentially compromise on our clientele base. Then I went home and I thought, do I really want to work in that sort of environment? Do I really want to pursue that sort of job? So for me personally, I didn't pursue the high-end corporate world for that purpose. But I remained, I had solid convictions that I wanted to represent our community. I wanted to be a voice for our community. Did I let that get to me, or did I use that as a strength to pursue the career that I've pursued now?
No need, don't mind, I'm just going to get Tanya's additional thoughts on this.
No, absolutely. I think that the networking through that means is a challenge. The thing I just wanted to add is that is not the only way to network. It is in some segments and some areas. I personally haven't done most of my networking at drinking events. I've approached people, including lawyers. I once met Justice Kirby. He gave me his email address. He said you can hit me up and speak to him. So I think that there's alternative fora for networking. But it does require a bit of proactivity because they weren't always designed with Muslims in mind, and that's the reality of the country we live in. But the other thing is to be proactive. As young students, we organised our own networking events, invited speakers in from industry, from academia. So you've got to sometimes be proactive as well and to kind of create the environment that you want. But it is a challenge and you've got to balance it.
Can I start to Mona's point where this conviction is very important. When you start going out there in the workplace, you will see conflicts and contradictions. But this conviction, mashallah, she has, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whoever fears Allah, sincerely does things for Allah, Allah will give them a way out, an exit out of everything, subhanallah. Can I just tell a good story? Yeah. So look, I think I was there's another one. So I was working at eBay, eBay at the time, good money, traveling the world, etc. And I decided to quit to go overseas to learn Arabic. And then I got back to Australia. And then, I didn't really keep my networks because I wasn't interested in that whole social thing, these events and stuff. So I just started applying for jobs, and being the staunch person I am, I said I want these and these and these things. And I got rejected again and again and again, and 10 times. And there was only one job that would really hire me. I went to like 6 interviews. It was a breeze. And then at the end of it, they'll say, "Okay, we really want you." I went through 6 interviews, and then we want you to do a new job where you'll be responsible for really establishing this product for us throughout Asia and Australia as well. What's that product? Okay, you'll be working on this product it's a new product. It's called the iPhone. So I did that, and I established all these processes. Did so many amazing things for Australia and Asia, for this iPhone product. And I've got rejected 10 times, but it comes down to that basic principle of, okay, if you really, truly fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes you think you have a choice, but you really don't have a choice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sort of pushes you to certain ways. And then after that, I went home and became a houseband. Couldn't find anything. Oh my goodness, what do I do? Islamic finance, I'm going to be the general manager of this firm. Okay. And then it just went from there. SubhanAllah, so sometimes you may think you have a choice, but as long as you hang on to these core principles of Islam, where you have you're confident in Islam, you truly believe that Allah is the provider, you have that intention there, these things will come through. Although you don't see it, your failures are actually leading to the success.
Well, literally 2 minutes. I'm going to use 30 seconds.
Sorry, just one last thing. In terms of networking, one of the reasons why I did my master's, and a lot of people ask me, why did you do your master's? You already have a job, what was the point? It was networking. And I built a lot of contact through my master's, and that's a very, decent environment because you go to a class, you go to a lecture, and there's all those guest speakers from top companies that would come, and I'll get their business cards and follow them on LinkedIn. So that's another way of building contact.
I can also, echo that point as well. Every single job I got was a network. Not saying that I got no skills, but primarily networks. All right, wrapping up now. I'm just going to ask one quick question. If you're 21 again, and I know you guys are probably like 18, 17, if you guys were 21 again, what advice would you give yourself? In 30 seconds.
Listen to the advice of elders, or seriously consider the advice of those people who have trodden the path for you. Listen to the advice of elders. I didn't realise that went until later on in my 20s, but it's really difficult following that advice when you're in your 20s or maybe in your 30s. But listen to the advice and consider very carefully the advice of the elders and those that have trodden the path.
Sort of echoing from that, I remember Tariq, CEO of formerly Alamudi, there was a children company that I worked in, and he said, one of the things he said was to invest in yourself and development. I don't know how well I followed that advice, and I look back and I think about all the time that I wasted during my 20s, but Tariq, yeah. And the thing I would tell myself is you cannot underestimate investing the time in building yourself as a person, as a person with relationships around you, and obviously spiritually, because time and time again, the thing that's going to allow you to succeed is less so your technical skills and your knowledge, but is your integrity and your character and your ability to gain that respect from that. And that takes a lot of effort. And that, just to clarify what I mean by that, it means things like sometimes studying with scholars. It means things like spending that time reflecting on yourself. You might be in a quiet space, right? And the other thing might be to learn more about human psychology. One of the things that I think that we don't learn enough about is human psychology and behavioral science. So, for example, there's a great book I'd recommend everyone reading by David McCraney on You Are Not So Smart. Understanding human biases and the flaws in our own decision making. The more you invest in that, I think it's helped a lot more in how to deal with co-workers, how to manage relationships with people, with your family, how to be a confident communicator. All of that I put into the package of investing in your own self-development.
Excellent, thanks, Tanvir. We need a whole reference section. All right, go ahead.
Yes. Probably the same point. Invest in yourself and build your skills. When it comes to the workforce, you are going to be pretty much similar to everyone else that graduated from your university. What is going to make you stand out is how much you invest in yourself, public speaking, writing, communication, social media management. All those little skills will make you stand out and will make you approachable as an candidate. Thank you.
I would tell myself, life will throw you many obstacles. Life will throw you down to the ground, and you have to get back up and do what you do best and do the things that you love. So pursue a career, pursue something that you're passionate about, something that you want to do for yourself, not because of your parents or your friends or social or peer pressure. Do what you love most, because if you do what you do love most, you will wake up every day facing some of the most difficult situations within the community, and you will be reminded of your purpose, and you'll do so with conviction.
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you to all the panelists for coming today and sharing their insights, experience and thoughts around the various topics in regards to can my career be Islamic, and the conclusive answer is maybe. No, it's a yes. Yes, inshallah. All right, jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
لا يزال الخير حيا لا يزال إن في الدنيا سلام